When the world was made, the Great Spirit tore out the heart of Calliope, the sky mountain, and left the gash unhealed. He sent Coyote to people the valley with a strong and hardy race of men, and who called their home Awani, and themselves the Awanichis. The Awanichis lived a simple life, a savage one that knows no law but to hunt and kill animals. By day the trackless forest rang with the clamor of the chase. By the flaring light of their fires the hunters gorged themselves at night upon fresh-killed meat, feasting far into the night. They made war upon the tribes that lived beyond the walls of Awani, and they never knew defeat, for none dare follow them to their rock-ribbed fastness. They were feared by all save the outcasts of other tribes, whose lawless deeds won for them a place among the Awanichis. Thus the children of Awani increased in number and strength. As time went by, Awanichis, in their pride of power, forgot the Great Spirit who had given them their stronghold and made them feared out of all tribes. And the Great Spirit, turning upon them in his wrath, loosed his evil forces in their midst, scourging them with black sickness that sweeps all before it, as a hot wind blights the grain at harvest time. The air of the valley was poison breath, in which the death shade hovered darkly. Before the evil spirit, medicine men were powerless. Their mystic spells and incantations were like a mockery performed among the dying and the dead, and when at last the evil one passed onward in his cursed flight, the once proud and powerful band of Awanichis was like a straggling pack of gaunt gray wolves. Their eyes gleamed dully in their shrunken faces, and the skin hung in loose folds on their wasted bodies. Those who were able fled from the valley, which was now a banned place, eerie with flitting shadows of funeral fires as ghostly echoes of the funeral wail. They scattered among the tribes beyond the mountains, and Awani was deserted. A vast stillness settled upon the valley, broken only by the song of birds and the roar of Chuluk, when spring sent the mountain torrents crashing over his head. The mountain lion and grizzly roamed at will among the rocks and tangled bristles, fearless of arrows. The doe led her young by an open path to the river, where trout flashed their colors boldly in the air. In autumn the choked cherries and berries dried on their stems, and ripened acorns rotted to dust upon the ground after the squirrels gathered their winter store. The homeless Awanichis circled wide in passing the valley. Over beyond Tokoya, the North Dome, among the Monos and the Paiutes, a few of the ill-fated Awanichis had found refuge. Among them was the chief of the tribe, who after a time took a Mono maiden as bride. By this Mono woman he had a son, and they gave him the name of Tenaa. Before another round of seasons, the spirit of the Awanichi chieftain had wandered on to the land of the sun, the home of the happy souls. Tenaa grew up among his mother's people, but the fire of a warrior chief was in his blood, and he liked not to live where the word of another was law. The fire in his blood was kept aflame by the words of an old man, the patriarch of his father's tribe, who urged him to return to Awani, the home of his ancestors, and to gather about him the people whose chief he was by right. So Tenaa went back across the mountains by a trail abandoned long ago. As before, the number was increased by the lawless braves of weaker bands who liked a greater freedom for their lawlessness. Again, under the favor of the Great Spirit, the Awanichis flourished, and by their fierce strength and daring, they became to other tribes as the mountain lion to the wolf and the coyote to the mountain sheep. And it chanced that one day while Tenaa and his warriors were camped near the canyon of the Arrowwood, a young brave went out in the early morning to the lake of the sleeping water to spear fish. His lithe-strong limbs took no heed of the spiky rocks in his path, and he leaped from boulder to boulder, following the wall that rose sheer above him and cut the blue sky ahead. As he reached the base of Skokoni, the cliff that arches like the shade of an Indian cradle basket, he came suddenly upon a monster grizzly bear that had crept forth from its winter cave. The grizzly knows no man for friend, least of all the man who surprises him at his first meal after a long sleep. The rivals of Awani were face to face. The Awanichi had no weapon save his fish spear, which was useless as a reed, yet he had the fearlessness of youth, and the courage of a race to whom valorous deeds are more than strings of wampum, piles of pelt, or many cattle. He faced the grizzly boldly as the clumsy hulk rose to its full height, at bay and ready for attack. With instinctive love of conflict roused, the young chief seized a broken limb that lay at his feet, and he gave the grizzly blow for blow. The claws of the maddened brute raked his flesh. The blood ran warm over his glistening skin and matted the bristled yellow fur of the grizzly. Awanichi fought bravely. While there was blood in his body, he could fight. When the blood was gone, he could die. But with the traditions of his ancestors firing his brain, he could not flee from the young chief's clubs, and by the blood from the young chief's torn flesh, the grizzly struggled savagely. He, too, was driven by the law of his breed, the universal law of the forest, the law of Indian and grizzly alike, which is to kill. Such a battle could not last. With a low growl, the crippled grizzly brought himself together and struck with the full force of his powerful arm. The blow fell short. Urging his waning strength one last effort, the Awanichi raised his club high above his head and brought it down with a heavy, well-aimed stroke on the grizzly's skull and sent him rolling among the boulders, dead. That night, as Awanichis feasted themselves on bear meat, the story of the young chief's bravery was told, and told again. And from that hour he was known as Yosemite, the large grizzly bear. In time, the name Yosemite was given to all the tribe of Awanichi, who for fearlessness and lawlessness were rivaled only by the grizzly with whom they shared their mountain home. And when, long after, the white man came and took Awani for his own, he gave it the name by which Tenaa's band was known, and Chuluk, the high fall that makes the earth tremble with its mighty roar, he also called by the name of the large grizzly bear, Yosemite.